past and now watching people willingly report on others to gain themselves favor is something I'm not enjoying here in terms of just bringing this round to today.
To Katie's question, is there something in the Jewish psychology that sometimes, like, you know, we're great super soldiers, we got amazing jets, we're great flyers, and when the chips are down, the IDF and the Mossad, etc., know how to kick ass. But when it comes to the narrative war, saying our thing, and there's something that sometimes Katie's saying, well, sometimes you're a little bit like mice, like you said. Is there something in the Jewish psychology? Carolyn said it's ignorance and it's a little bit of fear, not being promoted and not getting up there. By the way, I heard that Peter Beinart was a very unsuccessful writer until he started turning anti-Israel. He suddenly became mega successful. He just got he's got lifted up. Go ahead, David.
Peter Beinart's hero was Joe Slovo, the Communist Party chief in South Africa, which is where he grew up. He's a bad player, bad actor. And yes, his book, he got a huge advance for a book that completely flopped. Well, we cannot win this battle until we start calling them by their right names. They're racists, they're Nazis, they support terrorists, they're hypocrites, and they're traitors to their country. Now, one thing that Marx showed, I mean, he started this international civil war, and they called their organizations the International. Remember, he said, workers of the world unite, you have nothing to lose but your chains. And that proved to be totally wrong. When the First World War came along, the Socialist International held a conference and they vowed that they would not fight for country, and the working class fought for country. And we can see in America today, the working class is going to fight for America. And I'm sure the majority of Israelis are still patriotic. We have to draw on that, but you can't draw on that unless you're willing to say, look, this is treason. Or, you know, that your Supreme Court is subverting your democracy, which is what it, you know, is what it is. I actually, I wanted, my magazine, we have a motto which says, inside every liberal is a totalitarian screaming to get out. Why is that? It's because they think they can change the whole world. They can create this heaven on earth. They want to control you and everything about you. That's why we're having this backlash in America over opening the society, because they're banning. Well, what did the Democrats do? They closed the churches and the synagogues on Easter and Passover and opened the jails. That's who they are. They support criminals. They support, anyway. This is the way the battle has to be fought. I have one parable that it's a Jewish parable. When I was in high school, I did a paper on the Warsaw Ghetto. And the ghetto had about 500,000 Jews there. And the Jewish Council, the reasonable Jews, we're going to be reasonable, we're going to cooperate with the Germans and show them that we're decent people. They took the census of the ghetto. They identified every one of those 500,000 Jews, which made it easy for the Nazis to ship them off to camps. And when people escaped from the camps, from Auschwitz, and came and told them, they didn't believe them. When there were only 1,500 Jews left in the ghetto out of 500,000, they resisted. It was the first armed resistance. And they held off the Germans longer than the French, longer than the French. If the Jews had fought during the Nazi period, there would be millions of people who perished in the Holocaust alive today. Every Jew has to internalize that story and start fighting. You know, this is just an early warning. All these things, the Iran deal, you know, the embrace of the Democratic Party of Jew haters like Bernie Sanders. This is the early warning time. If you don't act now, what's going to happen is what happened with the virus. It's going to spread. You know, we may not have a Trump. If the Democrats I don't think they can win this election, although they're, openly trying to steal it now with their mail-in ballots scam, their voter fraud. If the Democrats were in power, Israel would be in a world of hurt, a world of hurt. I mean, Obama was just, there was still a better environment when Obama was elected. Obama is a communist traitor. He was raised the same way I was, only he never left the communist movement. He was trained by communists. He was part of the communist New Left that wanted to destroy America and Israel. But he was hemmed in because the national consciousness hadn't got to the point where it is now, where the whole left is openly supporting terrorists. On every campus, there's Students for Justice in Palestine, which is a Hamas operation, supported by every major university in the United States. And I mean, I've had this problem of, with the Israeli embassies, invited them to our events, and they would only come if I would take away those ads where I showed the 10 genocidal lies that were motivating Students for Justice in Palestine and Hamas. This has got to stop. People have got to fight. I mean, that's the message.
All right, Katie, so I guess your question evinced some very strong emotions because we do want to fight, and Israel wants to fight, and good people want to fight for liberty and for their culture and not have it taken over, just like you want to fight for an England that's not taken over by the jihad or Jeremy Corbyn, which is really two sides of the same coin. So I'm going to give you the final word on this, which is answer your own questions. Will the Jews fight for Israel? Will the world, the good people outside of London, win England over? Will the good folks, for example, who voted for President Trump, but who love America, who love patriotic America, will they be the victors? Will we be celebrating Israel in another 100 years for Israel, in another 28 years?
Yes, so two things. One, I want to put David in my pocket and then put him from time to time, just so he can do that kind of thing to people, because A, he makes me look moderate and reasonable, and B, we need that, I'm very alone here in the UK. I need that truth talker, and I need to be able to say, okay, ignore me if you hate me, listen to David. So that's number one. Number two, on a gloomy note, the UK will not endure. We will fall to Islam within the next 30 years. That will happen. And one of the things I learned during my following of Jewish families as they look to return or to be pioneers in Israel is that they have a place to call home. And for people like me, other families, we are looking to ask, where is our Israel? Where will we go? And increasingly, so I am so confident Israel will remain, will always be there, because when it comes to it, you are tough. The IDF is the toughest there is. You have this in your core that is your home, and you are not going to let anyone take it. And the other place I look to, of course, is to America, because there's a very different reaction going on right now. This virus is showing so clearly. Here in the UK, we are subjects. We are down on bended knee. This country is compliant. It's doing what it's told. It's not questioning anything. It's just accepting it's just a virus and we must do what we're told. In America, it's all about standing up and questioning, looking for freedom, reopen, rebirth, reborn the economy. It's completely different. And so it's to Israel and to America and that enduring partnership that I think we look to for strength. I think you guys have got it. We will go, but you guys absolutely will remain. And I believe, in a more biblical sense, one day when we've retreated to Eastern Europe and other places, we will come back to Israel and to America, just as they used to do with the vines. You guys Americans came to us to get the vines to grow their grapes. And eventually we will come back to America and to Israel to rebirth our country one day when we crusade again. But certainly for me, America's relationship with Israel is something that has given me so much positivity and hope. And from a British perspective, we say thank you to Israel. Thank you to 64 million Americans. And thank you for standing strong for our Judeo-Christian culture when, sadly, in my country, it will be left to fall.
Katie, we're not going to get to keep any of you physically in our pocket, but with this modern technology and this video, we're going to have this video to watch over and over again. I know that I'm going to get home and watch this video again just to be re-inspired, reinvigorated to fight for truth, to, as David said, kind of call it out more clearly and stop sissy-footing around and just saying with the truth more robustly, calling out bad things as I see them and as you see them. I'm going to take, Katie, from you a sense of that question, like, hey, Jews, when are you going to stand up and tell your truth and kind of not say what who your land is, who your enemies are, and what your vision is for the future. And from Caroline, I'm going to take also this idea that education is the key, because there are so many good people who are simply ignorant. With all that, I want to wish you all a happy Israel Independence Day. 72 years and 100 years since the world actually recognized Jewish rights in the land of Israel. It's an amazing, amazing year. Yes, we're under the limitations of COVID, but our hearts are soaring. And I want to thank you so much for all the amazing work you do. Maybe I'll take the title of Caroline's book, which is Shackled Warrior, and say, you guys are unshackled warriors. I want to thank you for your amazing work, and thank you for joining me here today in Israel.
Thank you.
Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach. Yom Ha'atzmaut Sameach. Thank you.
I believe the Brits will rise again.
Now, hold on one second, friends.
I want to end on that. That's sad. I understand Britain is in great trouble. But let me, here's my pep talk. In April 1941, Gallup took a poll. Now, the Japanese had overrun all of Southeast Asia. The Germans had overrun all of Europe, except Britain. And Gallup took a poll among Americans. Should the United States get involved in the war? 81% said no. And then came Pearl Harbor. I've watched all these films of the Battle of Britain on the Smithsonian channel and so forth. I think the Brits have it in them to fight back. And unfortunately, it's going to take some major atrocity to turn them around. But you can count on that happening.
Yes. That's a good pet talk. I like it.
Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to all the guests. There's a lot more great stuff found at Forum Cafe Shapira. And I want to wish everybody a happy 72nd Independence Day of the great state of Israel. Shalom.